If you want to see the future of this country, come to a YMCA event and watch a bunch of very intelligent, young, polite kids that are going to be the future leaders of our country. As advisors, we were sitting back and watching debate and watching a young Mr. Alberg in our presence. And as advisors, we were sitting back there going, there's our next youth governor coming up right there. But we were down in Olympia at an event we call Mock Ledge. It's a district event. Our district consists of Hoquiam, Olympia, and Stevenson. So we met with those kids. They got a chance to network with kids in their own district. It's a great bonding experience. It's good debate. It's good for them to get out and not to make debate amongst themselves constantly because they know what the questions are going to be from their own group. And on that note, to prepare for Olympia, we have an event that's called the Night at the Chamber. Thank you, Sherry Kidd, for helping us keep that event going. And we bring the kids in, put them in the chamber. They get to speak into the microphones, be in front of a crowd. And it's a little more intimidating than just standing in front of a group of kids. We would love to invite you when that event is. It's in April. I'll let you know the event for sure. But to have some outside debate and some challenges from people other than their own peers is really, it's fun and good for them. So once again, I'd like to thank you for the kind donation, and we promise we will put it to good use. So, thank you.
Thank you, Heidi.
And here's our donation.
All right.
The check has been passed. Anyway, we have some other guests today.
Can you believe it? The weather already, flowers blooming, beautiful days. But let me tell you what would ruin any day, make any day impossible to be a good day. If your computer is hacked into, if your financial information, if your personal information is stolen. Worse yet, what if your business information was taken, your client's information was taken? Not only would this ruin your integrity and your prestige, but could cost you countless hours, lots of litigation, untold amounts of money. This is one of the new levels of crime right now. So how do these criminals operate? What is their modus operandi? What, if anything, can you do to reliably protect yourself and your business? We have brought in one of our very own, an expert on this field, to hopefully give us some information to better prepare ourselves. So please join me in welcoming he's a certified business consultant with the Washington State Business Development Center, Kevin, I'll get it right, Hoult.
Almost. Thank you. After that introduction, all I can say is thank you very much. Have a great morning.
There you go.
So, as most of you know, my name is Kevin. I'm the Small Business Development Center Advisor here for the North Peninsula. Small Business Development Center, something that used to be here in Port Angeles long ago, but went away for some reason, and now it's back. So, I'm happy to be here. And speaking of back, I think we should all welcome back Brian, whose doctor kicked him in the knee. And so, good job, Brian. Thanks for fighting a good fight. Really appreciate that. So you can't escape one of my presentations without getting a little advertisement about me and the Small Business Development Center. The goofy-looking kid with the big feet is me back in '68. We just finished our fishing trip out at CQ at Olson's Resort there. We used to come out here just every month in the summertime. We loved it out here. There we are at a place I don't think you can go anymore. It's called Agate Beach. Was that part of Agate and Crescent Beach? And then when I grew up, I went up and worked all over the state of Alaska. I did all kinds of cool stuff like that. So sometimes people say, gee, Kevin, you might not understand the challenges that a remote small business might have. Well, I did lots of work out here on Little Diomede. So if you're more remote than them, let me know, and I will work with you. So what is the Small Business Development Center? Well, it's an organization for old white guys. No, not really. I mean, we have a few other people there too. And we provide services to businesses all over the state of Washington. There are 27 centers here in Washington, and there are small business development centers in every state in the union. And there's about 1,400 of us that do this work. So basically, we're just like Extension is for farms. Small business development is for business. We help people with one-on-one conversations. We don't do a lot of training, but we have some programs that we think are valuable. And we have a research center in Spokane. That map had a little diamond on it. We can look things up for you and find things out to help you make your business more successful. Some people ask how we're funded. Well, here in Port Angeles, the Port of Port Angeles has been very generous in supporting our efforts. And I think we should give them all a thanks. Thank you very much. So now it's time to ruin your breakfast. What on earth is going on with these guys that wear the funny masks and put those monotone videos on the internet and tell people that they're going to come even up the score? Well, it's something that has been going around since technology existed, but we didn't used to all have technology on our desks. But because we do have technology on our desks and in our pockets, it is now a threat that is with us all the time. And it's something that I want to elevate everyone's awareness of, because it really can happen to you. So basically, we're going to talk a little bit about my background. We're going to talk about some important statistics and trends that you probably haven't heard yet, because a lot of this information doesn't get out to the general press except for the really exciting stuff like Ashley Madison and Sony Pictures. We're going to talk about what some of the threats are. We're going to talk about the consequences of those threats, which we often don't think through. And then we're going to talk about what you can do to stop it from happening to you. So this is me. I've stumbled and bumbled through the technology world since the mid-70s. I confess I was a ham radio geek when I was a kid, and home computers first entered the consumer space through electronics hobbyists. A good friend of mine and I pooled our money and we bought a little TI board that hook up your computer and you program a bowling game on a cassette recorder, and it all went downhill from there. So, at least back then, nobody could hack you. You probably hack yourself, though, if your tape recorder crashed. These are the statistics I think we really need to pay attention to. Just like shoplifting, more store employees steal than customers steal. One of my hard-earned world facts from back in that world. 21% of it, 1/5, is going to be committed by your employees. The Ashley Madison hacker was an employee. She was a contract employee that was hired to write up all the fake profiles for the women that didn't exist. And after she left, they didn't pay her. And she happened to have paid attention when she went there, and the rest made the news. The next worst thing that your employees are going to do is they're going to steal your data when they leave. How many? Over almost 2/3 are going to take something digital when they leave your business. Maybe they just take their Outlook contacts. Well, that's your data. We have to start remembering that data belongs to the company that paid to have it collected, not to the person who collected it. Probably the worst statistic here, we only know a tiny percentage of what's really going on because the victims don't report it. Anybody remember the old Barney Miller TV episodes? They had one episode where a fellow had hacked into a bank, and the bank got down to the jail as quickly as they could, bailed him out, hired him, and made him an employee. Because they didn't want anybody to know that the bank got hacked. And that's the problem that we run into. Now, the challenge that I face is helping people who live in Port Angeles and have a small business overcome that second to the last bullet. Gee, I'm out here, I've got a little, but who could possibly care about me? Doesn't matter, because we're all less secure when we have that mindset, and a hacker can write automated scripts which will send an email to every email recipient on Earth. You're on Earth. You're going to get that email. You have to learn how to be careful, because these people can do this with almost no time or money investment at all. We've read about those criminals on the east side, or back east, that like spend months hacking into a jewelry store. And they'll rent the business next door, and they'll go collect a bunch of welding equipment, and then one Sunday night they'll drill in, grab everything, hop a midnight flight to Poland or wherever they're going, and they're gone. And so is all the jewelry. Well, hackers don't have to do that. They don't have to rent the business next door to you. They don't have to go buy welding equipment, and they don't have to fly away because they're already away. All they have to do is trick you. So let's talk a little bit about some of the threats that you're going to face. The oldest is called Social Engineering. There was a very good book and a very bad movie called Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And the theme of that story, although it was kind of lost in the movie, is this concept of acting like you're supposed to be doing what you're doing, and nobody questions it. I have a rather embarrassing story from my past. A good friend of mine and I like to go to the boat show in Seattle, down in the old Kingdom. But we didn't like the crowds and we didn't like to pay. So we had a good idea. We worked in business suits. Wednesday night before the thing opened, on Thursday morning, we just go down and walk in the door. And the overall attitude was, oh, 2 white guys in business suits, that can't be a problem. They must belong here. We went to so many boat shows while the Kingdom was still standing, we started bringing beer and pizza and people would help us carry it in. Social engineering. Okay, that's benign social engineering, but guess what? That gets a lot darker when the intentions aren't just to see the boat show. All kinds of examples of this. Hi, our driver was just at your back gate and the code didn't work. We have 6921. What's your code? We're all helpers, right? We'll just tell them right away. Of course, what's the proper thing to do? Well, you hang up, you call the delivery company and say, was there any problem getting into my business? See, there's where it starts. There's that thing about assuming. Phreaking is an old term from the telephone world, but what it means is taking the information you got from your social engineering and entering a network you're not supposed to be in. Spear phishing or phishing is sending you that email that says your order through Amazon for $2,300 has been shipped. If you need more information, click this link. Of course, that link doesn't take you to Amazon. General phishing attacks are the old, your email quota has been reached. Please click here to log in and get your email privileges back. That's right. Don't do that, by the way. Exploits are things that hackers learn about your software that you don't know, that is a defect that left the software house. You know, it's one of those things where if you went out to get in your car in the morning to go to work and the hood was up and there was a guy there with a Subaru jacket on and he said, I'm sorry, you can't go just yet, I'm updating your engine. I don't think that would go well. But our software companies have trained us to accept that status. Therefore, that puts us into a new era of responsibility where we have to actually be partners and keep up our own software. Probably the most dangerous is the persistent campaign. That's where I break into your computer, but I don't do anything. I just hold it in reserve for when I want to do something. And you don't know. But when the day comes, and I do it, it will happen so quickly, you won't know what hit you. Water holding is a really fun thing. You see it every NFL season. There are sites in Russia where you can get every single NFL game ad-free, just right there on your internet. Of course, if you click anything, your computer goes to Belarus. But, you know, they don't tell you that when they advertise the site online. Code injection is the reverse. You go to a nice website that's not really very well maintained, and you can force your own software code into that website so that subsequent visitors get an infection. They blame the owner of the website, but me, the hacker, I got in while nobody was looking, and now I'm in all of your computers. And then my favorite, the BYOD Trojan. No, that's not something nasty. What that means is bring your own device. A lot of us like to use our own devices. The specific vector here is the USB drive. I take a little USB drive, I load it up with all my malware, and then I put a post-it note on it in really girly handwriting. I write, Mindy's homework. And then I walk by the office of the jewelry store and I drop it right in front of the front door and I go home. Well, we're all helpers. You see that lying on the sidewalk and our first thought is what? Oh, poor kid, let me plug that in and see if I can find out how I can get it back to her. Thank you. I really appreciate your help. That actually happened at a bank in Skagit County where I was working. Fortunately, the staff had been trained to be aware of that, and so the person just brought it in and turned it into their security officer. That's the kinds of behaviors we need. So let's talk about the consequences of all of those actions. Here's the bad news. The best thing that can happen is identity theft, because at least there are processes to deal with that. You can have LifeLock, you can call your bank, you can possibly recover. But what about getting into your credentials for your email, your Facebook, and your Twitter account? Now I can use your email account to send out all my spam messages with viruses to other recipients. And who do they blame? You. Or I could steal your Facebook page or your Twitter account, and then I could go on the dark web and say, hey, who wants 1,000 Twitter followers? Because I got them. Because I stole them. But you can have them for 50 bucks. Hillary Clinton, Sony Pictures, they're victims of doxing. People stole documents they didn't know they lost, and then they go ahead and dribble them out to the press to embarrass the person or the company in mind. The folks who doxed Hillary Clinton were smart enough to have the federal government do it for them. But the point is, I can recover information from your computer, or quite honestly, your garbage can, that can be used to embarrass you. So get a shredder, lock up your garbage. This is something I talk about quite a bit. Isn't it funny that all the information that we keep on lock and keep all year long, in January when we're in our cleanup mode, we scuffle into a box and toss into the dumpster. Now, if it was worth keeping locked up all year long, why on earth do you put it out in the alley in an open box in January? Okay? So I can go get that. I can find out so much about you it would make your head spin. So how on earth do we fix this problem? Well, we take action, and like our smart friend in that beautiful sweater, it starts with us. We have to change our behavior. We have to change our mindset. When it comes to email, we have to ignore almost everything. When we get emails that say your Amazon order for $2,000 was just approved, click here for more information, what should we do? Well, how about we log into our Amazon account and check it ourselves? Hey, if we get an email that says your email quota has been exceeded, stop and think, wait a minute, do I even have an email quota? Who are these people? Next, let's harden those targets. God, you've heard this before, and you're probably tired of hearing it. Us in technology are tired of saying it. But you've got to have the current antivirus. You've got to have updates, and you've got to keep doing it. My favorite phrase, treat data like money. Because it is. I don't think the manager at First Federal Bank has the combination to the safe on a post-it note under his keyboard. But I can tell you as a desktop technician, everybody has their username and password there. That's not treating data like money. That's treating data like soda pop. And it's worth a lot more than that. The other issue that we often see in technology is failing to restrict access or use checks and balances. Everybody who has a retail store knows one person runs the register, another person counts the till. Anybody with any kind of cash handling always has two conflicting parties to handle the cash. Why don't we do that with data? Because we don't realize how important it is. And taking a phrase from the rappers, back it the blank up. Buy an external drive, use it often, and we're going to talk about that. So where can you put it? Well, when I was in undergraduate school in 1972, my computer science professor said, you know, you could write a program like that, but it would take a terabyte of data, which is more storage than all the computers on Earth. Well, you can now buy that on Amazon for $79.95. Now, a terabyte of data will hold about 5 million Word documents. Who has 5 million Word documents? Yes. 300,000 iTunes songs. Now, I know Andrew has 300,000 Green Bay Packer fight songs on his computer, but the rest of us probably have fewer than that. 300 first-run movies in high def that you bought legally, of course. All of those could fit on 1 terabyte, and you could back it up. And then, if you're hacked, you've got your data. I want to talk a little bit about basic backup strategy because there's a lot of confusion about that. There's a million ways to do it, but how about this? Almost everything on your computer you can get again. You can reinstall the software, you can re-download the songs, you can get your links from your browser by going back and getting them. But your original documents and your photographs are irreplaceable. So how about we just buy one of those drives, and I've got one, I'll show you what it looks like. Because you know what? They're not big. This is just 1 terabyte. I don't think you can buy them this small anymore. I think they start at 2 terabytes now. And I actually have 3 of these. Because guess what? These crash. They die. So back up your backups. and then back up the backup of the backups. Sounds like a pain in the butt, but guess what? So is getting the oil changed on your car. You do that, don't you? So, back up all your documents and pictures and just call that backup one. Don't worry, you've got plenty of room. Then next week or next month or whatever your production volume is, go back, use your Windows Explorer, search for everything after that date, and back that up. Then every session, you're just shoveling in everything new. With that kind of space, you don't have to think about it, just shovel it in, because you can always get it later. But if somebody locks you down with a crypto virus, you can't get it until you pay them. So, let's check yourself before you wreck yourself, the wrappers again. Have that current active firewall and antivirus program working for you. There's ways to do it. Not too complicated now to talk about, but it's doable. Add protection to your backup drive. There are antivirus programs that work on USB products. They're called portable apps. And there's a couple of brand names there, but it never hurts to protect your backups because you might be saving something that you don't want. You know, I mentioned it before. Those updates are like maintaining your car or putting a new roof on the house. Nobody likes to do it, but you know you gotta. And so do it, please. Finally, be a proactive user. It's just like we hear from the Coast Guard about boating safety, or like we hear from the State Patrol about driving safety. You have to exert the effort. If you continue to compute as a passive computer who doesn't treat data like money, you will be hacked. Now, I organized these in order of URL name so they would look pretty. I don't know all of these providers individually. It's on your handout. But these are the people who advertise themselves as PC assistants here in Port Angeles. So I would suggest maybe doing some due diligence, giving these folks a call and seeing which one works best for you. But it's just like a plumber. It's just like a roofer. It's just like an electrician or a car mechanic. You've got to have somebody in your Rolodex. What am I, 100 Rolodex? Why am I? You've got to have somebody in your contact list that you can reach out to when you have a challenge. So I am also ready to help. All of the services of the Small Business Development Center are free of charge. And you can reach me at the telephone number here. I'm graciously hosted to the Port Administrative Center. Thanks again to the Port of Port Angeles. My email and my phone number, and I'm ready to take your questions. I was that good?
You're good.
All right.
You mentioned backup of external drives, Kevin. How would you compare online backups like Amazon and Carbonite?
I think Amazon and Carbonite are great companies, and those are great products. The concern I have with your most irreplaceable data is that many of these attacks stop your internet connection because they don't want you downloading an antivirus program to clean the infection out. And so that can separate you from your backup on the compromised machine. So I think it's always nice to have a physical backup as well, because if your ability to access the internet is compromised, then you can still restore your data quickly. But there's no question, as long as you have that internet connection, that the cloud services are very good. And just behind you, Kai, and then you're next.
Would you comment on the fact that, like my new car, connects my telephone to the cloud, and that cloud then can collect information that's on my phone and also about my car, which can be passed on to my insurance company or whoever wants to know my driving habits. Now, this isn't exactly identity theft, but it's identity compromising information that you would not necessarily like advertisers or insurance companies to be using about you. What's your comment on that particular scenario?
We need to be aware of all the data that's out there that we inadvertently create. Many of us have seen the biology program when we were in high school about the little lice that live in our eyebrows, you know? Because there's all kinds of things that we do as we move through the world that we leave. And when it comes to data, there's 3 areas of data that people need to be especially aware about. Do you know that when you take a digital picture, the GPS coordinates of where that picture was taken are recorded on that picture? So, a good friend of mine just took a trip to Indonesia, and what she put on her Facebook page, here's my pictures from Indonesia. See me in Indonesia? I'm in Indonesia now. I wanted to go break into her house just to show her how dumb she is. Because all the burglar has to do is scroll down through her timeline and go, oh, here's a picture of them celebrating Christmas in her living room. Let's see. Hack, hack, hack. Oh, this is her GPS coordinates. That's her longitude and latitude. Oh, there's her street address. And she's in Indonesia, so it's going to be a while before she comes home. I think I just got a new flat screen TV. So the data crumbs, the little breadcrumbs that we leave around about ourselves are everywhere. When you use a free Google product in your car, I mean, did you see the news story last week about the driving situation that had been resolved by looking at the car's data storage? And they saw that the driver was actually not telling the truth about how fast they were going. Because data storage on new cars now has GPS, and GPS can tell you speed, direction, or vector. So I think the first thing to say to answer your question is to be aware that every time you move in the digital world, you leave a track. And then to look for every option to opt out, cancel, erase, reverse, back out, get down, get rid of, clean out, redo. So, but the car situation is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. There's been a number of stories in the technical press about people who've already hacked into car systems. So, Kai is next, and then Mr. Wilson. Yes, ma'am.
As far as backup goes, I've heard that there are some programs, like Second Copy of Codevian, that for those who are too busy or perhaps too forgetful to regularly back things up can be used. And some I think used to be free. I don't know if now they charge a small amount, and you can program how many hours to back up and what portion. Can you say anything about whether those are actually useful or any that you would recommend to people? Because not everybody has the discipline to go through every week and see, well, what new programs did I create last week, and then back it up. And if you let it slide and forget, then the whole thing is kind of worthless.
Well said. I think that's especially applicable for people with high volume production. If you're cranking out a lot of Word documents or taking a lot of pictures, it is nice to have an automated system. However, first Dale, then you. However, my challenge with that is anything automatic can go sideways on you. And I challenge everybody, we have other habits. We have our drive-through espresso habit, we have our drive-through burger habit, we have our lunch routine, we have our Saturday morning routine. My challenge to all of you is, let's make this part of our routine. Because you're right, Kai, we don't have the discipline to do it yet. We do have the discipline to do things we like to do. And so I'd like everyone to start moving that from, oh God, it's such a pain in the ass, I don't want to think about it, over to, hey, this is really important and I need to get in the habit. And again, while the online backups and the automated backups play an important role, there's nothing like reaching into your drawer and going, yeah, there it is, in my hands, ready to be reused. And what's sad about the crypto hacking, you probably read about the hospital in Los Angeles that paid the big money so they could get back into their data. The funny thing is, you know, this honor among thieves, the current level of crypto hackers actually want to show good customer service so that when they hack you and you pay them, they give you your data back so that when they hack the next person, they'll have a good reputation. When ISIS figures this out, they won't care. All right, they'll just take your money and they'll take your data and they'll sell it on the dark web and they'll do whatever else they can to you because they hate you. So Dale's next.
Yes, can you talk a little bit about the metadata that can be gleaned from a forwarded Word document?
And metadata means like metaphysical or any of the other metas outside of the realm of the data that you directly perceive. And so on a Word document, that data that you directly perceive is the words and the layout and all that. Inside the Word document, because Microsoft likes to help us, and Microsoft isn't the only one that does it, but it stores all kinds of information. It moves the, you know, when you get a new computer and it says, oh, give it a name and let's put in your name and all that, boom, that goes into a little spot in your operating system and it gets moved into not just a Word document, every Microsoft Office document you create brings forward your name, your registration, the name you gave your computer, the Ethernet address of your network card, and the machine code address of your CPU. So I can know everything about the author of that. It also saves subsequent authors. So if I'm working in Kai's law firm and I do a document and our receptionist adds some names and addresses and our paralegal does something to it, all of those authors and some flags about the changes they made are all in that document. You might recall a doxing incident about 10 years ago where a very clever person pulled some of that metadata out and said, wait a minute, this person says they oppose this bill, yet their computer fingerprints are all over the document that went out in favor of the bill. What's going on here? So it's a situation that no one's aware of. Good question, Dale. That, again, as we were talking about earlier, those little crumbs you leave everywhere you go. So Edna, and then it's Matt?
Yes, sir.
Matt. Okay, Edna, yes.
I got hacked by the Russians, crypto, whatever, about 2.5 years ago. You know that.
I didn't know that because I wasn't here 2.5 years ago, but I'm sorry to hear.
Well, anyway, it was an interesting experience because that was early on in the game of that. Nobody knew what to do for me. All they said was, boy, you have a problem. And I ended up having to hire, it cost me a lot of money to get 15 years of documentation back for my little store. And it was incredible. I mean, they locked everything down, and it was from a thing that my bookkeeper received that she opened. Because
And I'm
she
sure that
didn't
thing
know
was...
what it was.
Right. And those things are written like newspaper horoscopes. When you read it, you think it applies to you, but it's just a generic collection of phrases that applies to everybody. So, Matt.
Is there a way to remove, A, the GPS information from pictures that you've already uploaded, or B, to take that GPS information to inhibit from being put into the pictures when you take the picture, and then B, a way to remove the metadata that's in the documents that you create?
Yes. Unfortunately, it's a holy pain in the ass because the companies that put all this together use it internally and they'd rather everybody just share their data. But on most digital photography implements, whether it's a phone or a camera or wherever else cameras are now, if you claw through the data enough, you can find a setting that says suppress my GPS data. And yes, on pictures you've already taken, I'll just have you Google it, but there are strippers that will go into your camera data and take out a lot of stuff that's in there, because it's not just the GPS. It's, again, like the Word documents, it's the owner registration data and all the other information that you have in your photographic device that it brings forward, because in some circumstances it's useful. But again, not treating data like money, these companies are producing a lot of extra tracks for their convenience, and also to put some kind of a feature up because everybody's in feature competition. But yeah, there are applications that will clean that all out, and I think there wasn't anybody else, so yes.
The information Word docs.
Oh yeah, and to strip it out of Word docs, again, there are settings in all the Microsoft applications to suppress that, and there are little applications that good hackers have written that will go through and yank that out. But it's a pain. It's a big pain to get all that done. And so our scribe was next, and then this good man.
More and more people are getting, I guess it's called Alexa, that can turn on the lights, do this, but somebody said it also records everything it hears in the house. Is that true?
I don't know, and it would take a lot of data space to record everything it hears in the house, because audio files are very big, but so is storage. So again, like the photographs, there could be a setting in these security systems that says, record everything in the day that I hear, yes, or you can say no. And yes, Brian. Oops, I forgot Jack.
Referring to those audio, Xfinity is advertising on Fire TV, they all record.
Okay.
Somebody
Yeah.
said it records everything you say in the house, yeah.
It's learning language. Yeah, I own an Alexa, I own my smart TV and all that kind of stuff. I figure they want to hear my foul language. But it's a learning process, and the Alexa learns and gets smarter. I've had one now for about a little over a year.
Well, now you're sunk. Yes, Jack, sorry to go over.
Kevin, where are you on Bitcoin? What's the story on it?
Well, Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, and there are many of them. Bitcoin is just the one we know the most about. And the fun thing about Bitcoin is that it's not backed by any particular government. There are large impediments to converting that to any kind of a currency, but a lot of people say that's just fine. We'll just live in the world of Bitcoin. So 2 of my clients in Bellingham had already started a company that allowed you to use Bitcoin as your primary currency. It created a Bitcoin exchange for the companies that you were buying things from, and there are a number of large hotel chains and others who accept Bitcoin. So it's slowly working its way into the digital currency world, pardon me. And I think just like everything else, we're seeing both good things and bad things. The good thing is it's very convenient and handy. The bad things is that there are all kinds of frauds that are done with it. And that hospital in Los Angeles that had to pay to get access to their records, guess what they paid in? Bitcoin. And so there was another hand and I forgot where it was. Yes, John?
You know, as Edna pointed out, this stuff does happen here. We just had a big incident with a small but prominent business that, why don't you tell a little bit about what hit them?
I don't know which one you're talking about.
I'm thinking about our friends over in Sweat.
Oh, yeah, same thing, exactly the same thing that happened to Edna. A bookkeeper saw something they thought was important. They forwarded it to the company that was impacted. They clicked it to see what it was because it came from their bookkeeper. And then they opened the attachment and immediately had their screen locked and all their data shut down. I think it's probably been in the papers, so I will say, and we'll all just be confidential about it, it was the Squim Chamber of Commerce, and the lockdown happened like 5 minutes before their luncheon. So they had no attendance list, they had no Visa payment acceptance abilities, they had no information about their upcoming events, they had no membership roster, and I honestly don't know how it resolved. They dropped it off at their computer guy, but I don't know if he was able to open it.
He knows.
Oh, okay, Brian.
My wife's on the chamber board. Yeah, it was a case of you're not supposed to open an email that you don't know where it's from. Well, and it was supposedly a trusted source, but there's also, buyer beware. They had no, well, I won't get into the nasty details, but they didn't have any type of recognition software or antivirus. And so there was no alert system up, and so one person forwarded to another, to another, to another. And then they have separate computers that are not on a file server, so then it was a mess.
And again, not because the people at that particular place were doing anything bad. They were just going through their workday and trying to get stuff done and setting things up as they needed them. But nobody stepped back and said, how does this all work together? How are we protected? What do we need to do in case of a problem? They're like fire drills. Everybody hates them, but guess what? When there's a fire, Edna was first and then this young lady.
So if I hit delete, does that get rid of that person and away from my world?
If you don't open it.
If I don't open it?
Yes. In
and I
fact, the
just
best
hit
thing to
delete?
do is mark it as spam, because emails that are sent to spam have all of their internal workings deactivated by default. So if you've ever noticed, if you see an email from a friend that's in a spam folder, you can't click any links or view any of the images or anything. And images are another way that viruses are passed through. But yes, throw it in the spam file and then clean out your spam folder, and that will generally get rid of the problem. As long as you didn't open anything or look at anything. It's that opening and looking that gets us all. Curiosity killed the cat. Yes?
So they're very tricky though, because when we got the lockdown on the screen, we were actually waiting for an equipment or for a material shipment from FedEx, and the email or the came from FedEx, and my husband clicked on the track your order, and he was in good shape because everything was up to date. Mine was not, but we were networked, and so I'm the one that got locked down from something I didn't even do. Luckily, with a backup a few days earlier, we were able to restore everything, but they are very tricky when it comes
Social engineering, they know just what to say.
Yeah.
And I think Dale was next, and then
A two-part question. Number one, if you change a Word document to a PDF and forward it, doesn't that strip all the metadata from it?
I really don't know. I haven't looked. It would be interesting to see. I would be surprised if it took all of it out, just because the convention among software developers is to leave things as they are as they pass them through. There might also be settings in your PDF creator that will do that.
Item number two, I've heard that if you download this app on your smartphone to allow you to use your phone as a flashlight, it may also be activating your camera. And if you've got a hacker in there, they can see exactly what the light is on.
All apps have the potential to be very dangerous. So that's why people should only download apps from recognized stores that actively curate their collections. And just in the news yesterday, as though they were trying to help me prepare for this presentation, the first crypto viruses for Apple were discovered in the wild yesterday. And so it's the way that I can lock down your smartphone and make you pay me to give you your data back. So apps can be extremely dangerous. And then George was next. Harry, I'm sorry, Harry.
Two questions. One of them is, I use Norton 360 as a way to scan these commands. So the question is, are there gaps that I might be missing there? And the other question is, in terms of a home computer, does it make sense to either disconnect from the internet or shut my computer off rather than continuously running?
They've got us, so your second question first. Unfortunately, the software developers have us over a barrel. Because if you disconnect your home computer from the internet or turn it off, you will probably miss an update, which will give you greater vulnerability. And so unless you're really good about reconnecting and updating before you proceed, then you're probably better off to leave it on. The other funny thing about computers is they're actually physically a lot healthier if you just leave them on all the time. I forgot your first question. Oh, yeah. You know, all of those products have gaps. And the challenge is making sure we fill those gaps. So we have malware products, spy-bot products, antivirus products, hijack products. Normally the antivirus will do what we need it to do, but sometimes something will slip through, and then we have to use another one of the applications to solve the problem.
Do we have more questions, Andrew?
Mr. Chairman, I move, I see a few other questions left, that we extend up to 15 minutes.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Please.
And then I was first and then George.
A couple of times we did viruses, and when I got the obvious email saying report come from FedEx, there's a package on its way to you. Click here for tracking, and I look at the address it comes from, and it's blackcup@belarus.net. So I send it to UPS and say, hey, this looks like a phishing email. Does that make any sense? Do these companies whose name is often taken in vague actually do something about those, or do they just discard them because it's either impossible to track them down, or they don't want to spend their money? They feel it's not their problem.
Some do, some don't. eBay, PayPal have spoof addresses you can send any spoofed email to. And what they do is they add it to a database and look for a pattern in the big data. Other companies don't. Often if you go on their website, usually in the breadcrumbs on the bottom, they will have a link if they have an email address to send spoofed emails to. Some companies do like to collect them because sometimes they can find patterns in there. And then George. Really George this time.
I was going to say one low-cost solution to a lot of these problems is if you have the ability to have a second computer with your most sensitive data on it that does not need to be on the net. That absolutely completely eliminates the issue of being hacked.
Almost. It's people again. Burlington, Bank in Burlington had that system set up for their payroll. And they had a switch, so you clicked it when you wanted to go online, do the payroll, turn it off, it's in a secure room, everything. So one day an employee goes in, gets to work on it, gets called away, comes back, goes, oh geez, I think my kid was going to email me. Now what do? They check their email, they click the wrong thing, and $600,000 went right out of the city of Burlington's payroll account and off across a series of other accounts that had been hacked by a persistent attack. So that hacker had hacked into a bunch of personal bank accounts but had done nothing until he needed them. Then he took this payroll account from the city of Burlington, divided it into 6 even pieces, pushed it into those accounts, and was getting ready to send it over to Russia. And the only reason that hack got caught was that the city bought internet insurance. And therefore they had a big ape behind them saying, whoa, 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 find this, fix it, stop it, change it now. Had it just been the city by themselves, the bank probably would have ignored them and the money would have gone. They got everything back but $60,000 and the insurance policy paid for that. And the city manager said that he bought it on a whim. It was only $60. They said, well, why not, a year ago? And then boom, 8 months later, they needed it. So once again, insurance can be your friend. Yes.
On the standalone system, most of the laptops come with Wi-Fi. Is there any way besides physically taking the Wi-Fi card out of the laptop so it can't be turned on externally?
Airplane mode. Almost all laptops now have that,
So
where you can shut off all. Some laptops have Bluetooth also. And airplane mode on your laptop is just like airplane mode on your cell phone. When you turn that on, it locks off all of the RF sources because the airplane guidance systems are said to be vulnerable to that. Other people say, well, actually, they just want to sell you internet inside the plane. So, but for a long time, that's been the case. And even if your laptop is a little older and it doesn't necessarily have airplane mode, you can always turn on or off your Wi-Fi little radio settings with a little button. It's usually a function and a blue key.
okay.
And the old laptops that we used to have when I had hair, you actually had a physical card. Those you would want to pull out because there isn't any way to turn them on or off. Yes, Ed?
One more time, these two guys over here, because of their profession, are just scaring, I mean, they're sitting over here saying, it's happened to me, it's happened to me, you should go down. So he just said that my new credit card can be read 6 feet away from me?
Absolutely, the chip is RFID. And so if someone has an RFID exciter, they can definitely do that. And people who travel to China have it happen to them all the time. That's why they sell those little envelopes to put either your secure driver's license or your chipped card into, because in Europe, they actually store your entire account information on that chip. They're way ahead of us because they didn't have a huge installed base like we did. And so people fly to China, they can walk off the plane and all the money gets taken off their card before they know what hit them, unless they have the little radio frequency proof envelope to put all their stuff in.
Shouldn't have thrown that away when I got my enhanced driver's license.
You can buy a wallet.
Yeah, you can buy all kinds of that stuff. Yeah.
But do you own one? No, I don't go anywhere.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a hacker set up. The other thing to look out for, and we really didn't talk about it today, is some hackers put external devices on ATMs to capture the information off your card. And I just saw a video yesterday of ATM in Mexico where the hackers had actually put an entire fake front on the ATM, so when you put your card in and keyed, it had a little flat screen display that fit over the real ATM display. And so you were sitting there putting in all your information, and the only thing the screen would say, there's a problem, could you please re-enter your data? And so people would sit there just pumping their information in, and then they don't get any money and they take the card, oh, damn thing's broken. Hacker comes around later, takes the thing off, goes home, reads all the data, and takes all your money. So what I do whenever I'm anywhere using my ATM card is I grab that little device that our card slides into and I pull on it. Because sometimes it's an overlay that a hacker has put on there that's scraping off the information, and somebody's in a cab over pickup truck behind me with binoculars watching the ID code I put in, and then they go back and pull the two and put the two together. So grab that little throat and shake it really hard to make sure it's part of the machine. So yes, my intention was to completely ruin your appetite. I hope I've done that. And you can get back at me and ruin my appetite by filling out the evaluation form that I can turn in to WSU. So you can have your revenge on me. Just leave those right up here at the front desk by the lovely Carol.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Very, very, very good. Again, it does happen here. It's happened to a number of businesses. And
on with these guys that wear the funny masks and put those monotone videos on the internet and tell people that they're going to come even up the score. Well, it's something that has been going around since technology existed, but we didn't used to all have technology on our desks. But because we do have technology on our desks and in our pockets, it is now a threat that is with us all the time. And it's something that I want to elevate everyone's awareness of, because it really can happen to you. So basically we're going to talk a little bit about my background. We're going to talk about some important statistics and trends that you probably haven't heard yet, because a lot of this information doesn't get out to the general press except for the really exciting stuff like Ashley Madison and Sony Pictures. We're going to talk about what some of the threats are. We're going to talk about the consequences of those threats, which we often don't think through. And then we're going to talk about what you can do to stop it from happening to you. So this is me. I've stumbled and bumbled through the technology world since the mid-70s. I confess I was a ham radio geek when I was a kid, and home computers first entered the consumer space through electronics hobbyists. A good friend of mine and I pooled our money and we bought a little TI board. They hook up your computer and you program a bowling game on a cassette recorder, and it all went downhill from there. So, at least back then, nobody could hack you. You probably hack yourself, though, if your tape recorder crashed. These are the statistics I think we really need to pay attention to. Just like shoplifting, more store employees steal than customers steal. One of my hard-earned world facts from back in that world. 21% of it, 1/5. Here's our donation.
The check has been passed. Anyway, we have some other guests today.
Can you believe it? The weather already, flowers blooming, beautiful days. But let me tell you what would ruin any day, make any day impossible to be a good day. If your computer is hacked into, if your financial information, if your personal information is stolen. Worse yet, what if your business information was taken, your client's information was taken? Not only would this ruin your integrity and your prestige, but could cost you countless hours, lots of litigation, untold amounts of money. This is one of the new levels of crime right now. So, how do these criminals operate? What is their modus operandi? What, if anything, can you do to reliably protect yourself and your business? We have brought in one of our very own, an expert on this field, to hopefully give us some information to better prepare ourselves. So, please join me in welcoming he's a certified business consultant with the Washington State Business Development Center, Kevin, I'll get it right, Hoult.
Almost. Thank you. Well, after that introduction, all I can say is thank you very much. Have a great morning.
There you go.
So, as most of you know, my name is Kevin. I'm the Small Business Development Center advisor here for the North Peninsula. Small Business Development Center, something that used to be here in Port Angeles long ago, but went away for some reason, and now it's back. So, I'm happy to be here. And speaking of back, I think we should all welcome back Brian, whose doctor kicked him in the knee. And so, good job, Brian. Thanks for fighting a good fight. Really appreciate that. So you can't escape one of my presentations without getting a little advertisement about me and the Small Business Development Center. The goofy-looking kid with the big feet is me back in '68. We just finished our fishing trip out at CQ at Olson's Resort there. We used to come out here just every month in the summertime. We loved it out here. There we are at a place I don't think you can go anymore. It's called Agate Beach. Was that part of Agate and Crescent Beach? And then when I grew up, I went up and worked all over the state of Alaska and did all kinds of cool stuff like that. So sometimes people say, gee, Kevin, you might not understand the challenges that a remote small business might have. Well, I did lots of work out here on Little Diomede. So if you're more remote than them, let me know, and I will work with you. So what is the Small Business Development Center? Well, it's an organization for old white guys. No, not really. I mean, we have a few other people there too. And we provide services to businesses all over the state of Washington. There are 27 centers here in Washington, and there are small business development centers in every state in the union. And there's about 1,400 of us that do this work. So basically, we're just like Extension is for farms. Small business development is for business. We help people with one-on-one conversations. We don't do a lot of training, but we have some programs that we think are valuable. And we have a research center in Spokane. That map had a little diamond on it. We can look things up for you and find things out to help you make your business more successful. Some people ask how we're funded. Well, here in Port Angeles, the Port of Port Angeles has been very generous in supporting our efforts. I think we should give them all a thanks. Thank you very much. So now it's time to ruin your breakfast. What on earth is going on?
If you want to see the future of this country, come to a YMCA event and watch a bunch of very intelligent, young, polite kids that are going to be the future leaders of our country. As advisors, we were sitting back and watching debate and watching a young Mr. Alberg in our presence. And as advisors, we were sitting back there going, there's our next youth governor coming up right there. But we were down in Olympia at an event we call Mock Ledge. It's a district event. Our district consists of Houlk, Olympia, and Stevenson. So we met with those kids. They got a chance to network with kids in their own district. It's a great bonding experience. It's good debate. It's good for them to get out and not to make debate amongst themselves constantly because they know what the questions are going to be from their own group. And on that note, to prepare for Olympia, we have an event that's called the Night at the Chamber. Thank you, Sherry Kidd, for helping us keep that event going. And we bring the kids in, put them in the chamber. They get to speak into the microphones, be in front of a crowd. And it's a little more intimidating than just standing in front of a group of kids. We would love to invite you when that event is. It's in April. I'll let you know the event for sure. But to have some outside debate and some challenges from people other than their own peers is really, it's fun and good for them. So once again, I'd like to thank you for the kind donation, and we promise we will make it, put it to good use. So, thank you.
Thank you, Heidi.
Is going to be committed by your employees. The Ashley Madison hacker was an employee. She was a contract employee that was hired to write up all the fake profiles for the women that didn't exist. And after she left, they didn't pay her. And she happened to have paid attention when she went there, and the rest made the news. The next worst thing that your employees are going to do is they're going to steal your data when they leave. How many? Over almost 2/3 are going to take something digital when they leave your business. Maybe they just take their Outlook contacts. Well, that's your data. We have to start remembering that data belongs to the company that paid to have it collected, not to the person who collected it. Probably the worst statistic here, we only know a tiny percentage of what's really going on because the victims don't report it. Anybody remember the old Barney Miller TV episodes? They had one episode where a fellow had hacked into a bank, and the bank got down to the jail as quickly as they could, bailed him out, hired him, and made him an employee because they didn't want anybody to know that the bank got hacked. And that's the problem that we run into. Now, the challenge that I face is helping people who live in Port Angeles and have a small business overcome that second to the last bullet. Gee, I'm out here, I've got a little, but who could possibly care about me? Doesn't matter, because we're all less secure when we have that mindset, and a hacker can write automated scripts which will send an email to every email recipient on Earth. You're on Earth. You're going to get that email. You have to learn how to be careful, because these people can do this with almost no time or money investment at all. We've read about those criminals on